Hey guys, what's up? It's Alex here. Welcome to a brand new video. Today we're going to be looking at your guys, as voted by you, favourite Formula 1 PS2 games. So for any future polls, make sure you're following my social media down below. There's a Twitter and an Instagram down there, so make sure you're following those. That would be massively appreciated as well. If you don't have any of those, but you have a Facebook, there's also one down there that just tweets out, or that posts my tweets, for example. So yeah, if you want to go and follow those, that'd be massively appreciated. And there might be some giveaways over on my Instagram, so if you want to follow that, it's probably the best one to go and follow down below. So as voted for by you guys, at number 5 is F1 2000 by EA Sports. This game was released quite early on in the 2000 season, which is quite surprising. It was actually released in the first half of the year, so they didn't have a lot of time actually to make the game. I guess they were probably working on it through 1999 as well, but made by EA Sports, it was actually voted for by 5% of you guys, and GameSpot gave the PC version of the game 84 out of 100 or 80.4 out of 10, so pretty good marks there for the game over on PC. So F1 2000 was met with pretty good reception. It included some really good modes as well, like a full championship season, single races, time trials, a split screen mode, which we all loved when we were younger as well. Split screen modes are always great on any sort of game. It's quite sad actually nowadays that not many racing games especially have split screen game modes, but all that stuff was, you know, fantastic in F1 2000. Actually, I think it was the first, or one of the very first games on PS2 that was a Formula 1 officially licensed game. So moving on to number 4, as voted for by 10% of you guys, it was F1 2005 by Studio Liverpool. So F1 2005 was released quite late on into the 2005 season, around September time, a little bit like what Codemasters do nowadays, and it featured the career mode, which was quite popular in the 2004 game, and then put into the 2005 game it sort of got better and better and better, allowing players to progress from one of the smaller teams all the way to the top. 2005 was obviously an interesting season because it also meant that it was one of the first years in a long time where Ferrari weren't that amazing, and it obviously had a bit of a different battle. It was between Renault and Mercedes, or McLaren Mercedes back then. They were the two teams to be at, and Ferrari had one of their worst seasons in a very long time. So maybe players going to the game wanting to drive Ferrari sort of thought about halfway through, maybe like, maybe I'll go to somewhere else, because Renault and McLaren Mercedes were the two teams to catch at that time, and Ferrari really did struggle in this season, which probably part of the reason maybe why a lot of you guys enjoyed it, because it wasn't a Ferrari dominated game. This game wasn't sort of met with 100% sort of amazement though, because a lot of people did question the AI difficulty. They said even on the hardest difficulty settings, this game was not that amazing. It was quite easy to beat them, so for me it was probably about alright. But yeah, a lot of the greatest players in the game were saying that even on the hardest difficulty, they were sort of struggling to have a good race with the AI because they were so much slower, which is interesting because nowadays in the Formula 1 games we had the difficulty slider, which we were begging for a long time, and we finally got it. But back then obviously there weren't that many sort of settings in terms of difficulty, and you sort of just had to deal with what you had, and a lot of the time you could never really find the perfect one. Also, like the previous game F1 2004, it included classic cars, which is awesome, which we obviously had in the most recent Formula 1 games as well, and it also had a career mode sort of helmet editor as well, or a helmet design thing that was awesome. Like back then that was obviously quite revolutionary, and obviously great to have that in the game, something where you can sort of personalize your driver a lot more. So F1 2005 did a lot for the sort of the Formula 1 gaming side of things, and it was back on PS2. That's over 10 years ago. This game was doing a lot of stuff which we see in Formula 1 games nowadays. It was actually quite revolutionary in a way. So next up we have the previously mentioned F1 2004. So a lot of you guys probably enjoyed this one because this was the first sort of Formula 1 game to have a proper career mode. Before this it was sort of just like a full season in a way. I mean, I suppose we did have F1 1902, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but this is what we had, sort of a proper career mode, or proper career mode if you will. This is one where you could sort of go season after season after season, changing teams, that sort of stuff. I think that's something we've always struggled with in Formula 1 though, is the sort of changing of drivers and teams. It's always the same driver in the same car unless you replace them, and that's what was quite good about 1902, which we'll talk about in a minute, because that's my favourite game personally on PlayStation 2, especially racing game, or Formula 1 game, probably not racing, whatever, we'll talk about it in a minute. But yeah, F1 2004 was revolutionary in that aspect because it included a career mode, which none of the games, the Formula 1 games before that, did. So this game actually released with quite a hilarious bug, which obviously would be absolutely infuriated if it happened nowadays, but it released with a bug where if an AI car pitted, everyone on the rest of the track would be going at that speed as well. So if an AI car pitted, everyone else would be going at pit lane speed, and once the AI car came out of the pit lane, everyone would speed up. That would be so infuriating if that that bug was in there, like F1 2018 for example. the whole world would go crazy. That'd be mental. But actually was a big turning point, because this is one of the first games that actually changed post-launch, because they had to obviously fix that, because that's a massive error. So I think that started maybe partly in a way, you know, games developing, games having to have updates, because people understand nowadays it's like vital. If you don't patch your game, if you don't update your game, people are going to go crazy. But back then, I guess it wasn't so much of a thing, because the internet wasn't so much of a thing, so there wasn't really much idea about updates and that sort of stuff. But yeah, once they re-released the game, it obviously got rid of that bug. But yeah, if that happened nowadays, the whole world would go up like... Interestingly, this doesn't have a great sort of review score on game rankings. This has a 77.9, which is quite interesting to me, because obviously when I played it, you guys have seen it on the channel, it was quite a good game actually for its time. Obviously having the career mode, all that revolutionary stuff, pretty impressive, but looks like a lot of the people did not agree. I guess maybe releasing with that bug probably was a massive thing, and obviously a lot of the initial reviews would have had very low scores, because that is a complete game breaker. But yeah, even still, that is still quite a surprisingly low review score, especially when a lot of you guys really loved it. 2004 was actually quite an interesting season as well, because there are a lot of replacement drivers. Actually, I'm going to try and read through them here, because there are a lot of drivers that sort of replaced mid-season. So a few drivers that drove a lot of races weren't actually in the game at all. So like Timo Glock, Mark Genet, Antonio Pizzonia, Villeneuve and Zonta, none of those were actually in the game, even though they raced in the season. So it's not really like Formula 1 nowadays, where we don't have too many mid-season changes, except Torosso, of course. But yeah, apart from that, we don't have a huge amount of mid-season changes. But back then, I guess in Formula 1, it was a much bigger problem, where if you were doing badly, there was no mercy. You were getting sacked straight away. So yeah, back then, obviously, that was not so much of a... it was more of a problem, but obviously in the official game, it was only people who started the season. Now on to my personal favourite, and as voted for you guys, 17% of you guys said that this was your favourite Formula 1 game on PS2. F1 Challenge 9902, I think it was a Championship, and it wasn't Championship, different. They had a couple of different names for it around the world on PC and PS2, but this was, for me, just the bee's knees. This was the best F1 game ever released, in my opinion, especially in the age. It was just incredible to have, obviously, all those seasons in one. 4 seasons, and the drivers changing, all that sort of stuff. It was just completely revolutionary, and I've asked for years whether we could have something similar like that nowadays. Codemasters obviously holding the license for, what, since 2009? Like, surely they could maybe do something? Or am I asking for a little bit much? Maybe they could go and do a 2007, 2008 game, because there never was one of those. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but you know what I mean? It was just a fantastic game to have 4 seasons. It just had a great flow to it, and I can see why so many of you guys voted for it, but it's actually a bit more surprising to me that it wasn't right at the top, because I personally would have put it up there. You've probably seen my videos on it. I did quite a lot of career mode videos on this game back in the day, but it didn't have the greatest physics. I remember if you touch an AI car, they would just do 360s and explode, and same sort of thing if you got hit. And it was, the sort of physics, for example, were pretty terrible, but the fact it had 4 seasons was pretty awesome. The license, all that sort of stuff, the sort of manual pit stops, much more manual than they are in the most recent Formula 1 games, even though they can be technically classed as manual, not as manual as they were back then. We had to mash all the buttons and that sort of stuff. A bit like the PS3 game as well, F1 06 Championship Edition. That's it. That is what it's called, isn't it? I'm so bad. But yeah, that game also, I think, had that sort of stuff in as well. But F1 9902, revolutionary, mate. It was incredible. I just love it. So many memories. But yeah, so many crashes as well. A lot of people weren't a massive fan of the physics, let's just say that. So this game was actually released in 2003, so actually a year, once again, after the actual game sort of cars finished. If that makes any sense. 9902, released in 2003. Yeah, you get what I mean. Probably not. But anyway, I wanted to look at the Metacritic on this, and it's actually really impressive. For any game at the time, scoring over 90 was impressive, but for Formula 1, which is quite a niche game, it scored 91, and it's really impressive. I think it's just such a perfect game in so many ways. Yes, the physics are quite bad sometimes, but you forgive it for that, because the game, apart from that, is just fantastic. 38% of you guys voted for this one. What? 38? Okay, that's quite a massive victory. For F1 2006, of course, the last Formula 1 game for PS2. So maybe a lot of you guys didn't actually have the earlier Formula 1 games. It's all working out in my head now. So maybe a lot of you guys didn't play the sort of very first one. So it makes sense if you obviously got a PS2 quite late, or obviously you're maybe a bit younger and you didn't play the earlier PS2 games. But F1 2006, as voted for by you guys, by over 20%, was the favourite game for PS2. Okay, that is quite surprising, I'm not going to lie. So this game was heavily based on F1 2005. It was very, very similar in terms of its engine, with only a small couple of modifications. Released on PS2 and PSP, PlayStation Portable. Do you remember those? It was released on that as well, and obviously you guys know it went on to be F1 Championship Edition for F1. F1. It was like F1 2006 for PS3. Yeah, it was basically that middle ground between PS2 finishing, PS3 starting up, and they had to sort of make different versions for different consoles, that sort of stuff. So yeah, F1 Championship Edition obviously for PS3, but F1 06 for PSP and PS2. So even though I don't think I played F1 06 because I played the PS3 version, so I still know what the majority of the game is like because they're very, very similar, if not identical. So you started off with one of the small teams of, for example, was it Toro Rosso, Super Aguri, and what's the other one called? Midland. Well, I should know that. Midland ended up being my favourite F1 team. How did I not know that? But basically you start with one of those cars, you do some tests for them, you'll probably get a contract unless you're really bad, and then you'll end up racing for them, and then you'll progress with your career unless you're really bad, and you'll probably stay at them forever. But yeah, so basically you race for them for a couple of seasons, you'll probably get better contract offers, generally going up to like a mid-table team, somewhere like Williams, Toyota, and then go up to some of the bigger teams like with the front of the grid like Renault, Ferrari, McLaren, also those sort of guys right at the front of the grid, and that's sort of how the career would progress. And I think it did really, really well in that aspect. It was really, really fun to sort of work your way through the sort of whole season, and being forced to start on one of the smaller teams I think also worked quite well, whereas other games, and I think most recent Formula 1 games, you aren't sort of pressured into racing with one of the smaller teams. I think that's a bit disappointing because I think you learn your craft in a small team. I can't really say much though because I raced for Williams in my 2017 career mode. Banter. This year was also interesting, wasn't it? Because it was Toro Rosso's first season and they couldn't afford V8 engines because they recently switched from V10 to V8 from 05 to 06. So everyone else has a V8 engine except from Toro Rosso has a V10. They were just mugging everyone off. They're probably so much quicker in a straight line. This game obviously included multiplayer as well for PS3 and PS2, but it also included some classic cars as well. Alfa Romeos, Coopers, Lotuses, Williams, so a nice mixture of classic cars, and it was great to see even back then. I remember playing on F1 on the PS3 version. It was just really nice to have these random unlocks of cars as well. It's just fun to drive around in something that isn't a modern day Formula 1 car. But the PS3 version, especially for me, had strange physics now and again, but it was actually quite good. And if you compare the graphics on that to a most recent Formula 1 game by Codemasters, nothing against Codemasters by the way, but I think F1 06, F1 Championship Edition, they sort of stand up to time quite well. They still look very, very good considering how old they are. And I don't know whether they were like 1080p or were they 720p. It was only just after launching the PS3 and they're really, really good quality. Like honestly, they stand up to the most recent Codemasters game quite well. This game also included damage as well, which is obviously quite important for Formula 1 games where you're probably going to crash at some point. But yeah, it actually included some pretty impressive damage, and the models were quite good. Like when you hit a wall at a certain angle, certain parts of the front wing would come off, and then the front wheel. Yeah, I love being able to break the front wheel off and still drive around for a few seconds. You know what I did in my spare time on F1 games was crashing a lot. So apparently this game was supposed to have sort of a cross-platform thing between PSP and PS2, but it never actually sort of fully worked out. But yeah, I really wish that we could sort of implement that nowadays. I mean, I know it's never going to happen, but it would be so fantastic, just for a bit of fun really, so you didn't all have to have the same console to have PS4, Xbox One, PC, Wii U, no, it doesn't, jokes. All of those guys racing against each other at the same time. It would be quite fun. It would be quite fun, but I can see it's never going to happen, let's be honest. So that is pretty much it for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. It was quite nice reminiscing on classic F1 games, and you guys seem to like F1 06 a lot, and yeah, interesting to see. So maybe in the comment section down below we can sort of get some more stuff going like this, because even though I'm not doing gaming stuff all the time, I still want to sort of talk about games and that sort of stuff. Not every video, but now and again. So yeah, let me know in the comment section down below what other top 5 would you like to see. Maybe top 5 racing games, top 5 F1 games. You know, PS3. Oh wait, we can't do top 5 PS3 F1 games because there's only like a couple. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all soon. Goodbye. So that's it for another video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Thanks for watching once again. I really appreciate it. If you're enjoying these sort of videos, I know a lot of people can't donate, but if you could donate and help me out, it'd be massively appreciated, because I'm hoping to go on a couple of trips for making videos for next season, including hopefully a couple of F1 races as well. So we'll see. So if you would like to donate and help me out on those trips, I completely understand if you don't want to, but if you do and you've liked the videos for a few years, that'd be massively appreciated. There's a link down below to a Patreon page, and that will send you sort of through there, and you don't have to donate much. Like, you can donate as little as $1, I think. So yeah, if you want to, that'd be fantastic, but I completely understand if you don't want to. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day. Please remember to leave your likes on the video. That'd be massively appreciated, and leave your comments down below. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.